Highway 13 Shadows, a Green 19 Experience by Thomas Strobush. The Strobush family had planned this trip for months. Joe wanted to show his boys, Thomas and James, the same winding back roads of northern Wisconsin that he had driven with his father decades before. Mary Jane packed coolers full of snacks, blankets, and board games for the cabin they'd rented deep in the North Woods. The drive started off pleasant, rolling fields, barns, and the late summer sun dipping between tall pines. But when the GPS suddenly lost signal on Highway 13, the mood shifted. "Don't worry," Joe said, gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual. "I know these roads." An hour later, the family passed the same broken-down gas station twice. Its sign flickered open, though the windows were pitch black. "That's impossible," James whispered. They pressed on till night fell. A pale red moon over the tree line, casting the forest in an eerie glow. Then Thomas saw it. Something in the ditch. "Dad, stop the car!" At first they thought it was a deer, but when the headlights caught it, the figure stood upright, its limbs too long, its face blank except for a wide, unnatural smile. It didn't move, didn't blink. "Drive!" Mary Jane gasped. Joe hit the gas, but no matter how fast they went, the trees on both sides pressed in tighter, the road narrowing, twisting until the car skidded to a stop. They were back at the gas station, only this time, the sign wasn't flickering. It was off. Inside the car, a new dread sank in. Thomas opened a cooler for a snack to calm his nerves and froze. The sandwiches Mary Jane had made that morning were gray and fuzzy. Sealed bags of chips were bloated and soft, and the soda cans were rusted over. Even the board games in the back seat looked wrong. Boxes sagging with dust, the cardboard wrapped as they'd been sitting in a damp basement for decades. "But we just packed this today," Mary Jane said, her voice trembling. The car itself wasn't any better. The radio clicked between channels, spitting out static mixed with voices, familiar voices. Thomas swore he heard his own name being called. The dashboard clock spun wildly, numbers blurring before landing on 1313. They stumbled out the vehicle, desperate for some explanation, some proof that this was all a bad trick of the mind. Against all reason, they went in to the gas station. Shelves were lined with food that should have been edible, chips, candy, jerky, but every package was sunken, mold blooming through the plastic. A row of soda bottles fizzed with black sludge. The bell above the door jingled, though no one had touched it. "Hello?" Thomas called out. His voice echoed wrong, like the walls themselves whispered it back. From the back of the store, footsteps began, slow, heavy, getting closer. The smiling figure stepped into the aisle. Its skin seemed older now, cracked like dry wood, though its grin stretched even wider. It dragged its nails across the metal shelves, the screech splitting the silence. Joe shoved Thomas and James toward the door. "Run!" They scrambled into the car, but when Joe turned the key, the engine didn't roar to life. It coughed, sputtering like an ancient machine that hadn't been touched in years. The headlights flickered, but instead of lighting the road, they glared onto the gas station's cracked window. Etched into the glass, fresh and deep, were the words, "Welcome back, Strobush family." The engine finally caught roaring louder than before. Joe slammed the gas and the road stretched endlessly before them, yet nothing felt right. The snacks in the cooler continued to rot, the board games sagged with decay, and the air in the car grew stale, as though they'd been driving for years instead of hours. And in the woods that flanked them, the smiling figure kept pace, sometimes ahead of them, sometimes beside them, always watching. The family realized then they hadn't just taken a wrong turn. They had slipped into something. Someone else's time, a place where the rules didn't work the same, and Wisconsin's back roads weren't going to let them leave, ever. A few hours, or years for all they know, had passed by. Thomas leaned forward from the back seat, his voice shaky. "Dad, are you sure we're even moving?" Joe didn't answer. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The gas gouge hovered on empty, though it had been full when they left that morning. Mary Jane twisted around, looking at the cooler again. Every package inside was crawling with mold. Every soda can has rusted shut. Even the board games looked like they'd been left in an attic for decades. Time wasn't right there. Suddenly, the radio crackled. Through a static, a voice whispered, Then, through the windshield, they saw headlights. Another car parked sideways across the road. Joe slammed on the brakes, the family lurching forward. The car blocking the road looked just like theirs. Same dent in the bumper, same rust spots. And inside it sat 4 bodies, the family's own faces, and rotting, stared back at them from behind the glass. Thomas screamed. James clawed at the door handle, trying to get out, but Mary Jane pulled him back. Joe floored the gas, aiming straight for the other car, but just as they braced for the crash, the duplicate car vanished in a burst of static, like a TV signal dying. The road ahead stretched on silent again, but the smiling figure wasn't beside them anymore. It was in the middle of the road. Its grin was impossibly wide now, stretching ear to ear, its hollow eyes glowing faintly red to match the moon. Joe swerved, but the creature didn't move. Instead, as the headlights swept over to it, the world around them seemed to melt away. The road dissolved into black tar. Trees shrank into shadows, and the car's engine coughed once last time before, going silent. They were stranded. The family sat in the suffocating darkness, afraid to breathe. Then the voice returned, not from the radio this time, but from everywhere. The trees, the air, even from their own mouths when they tried not to speak. "Welcome home." The smiling figure reached the driver's side window and placed a long, skeletal hand on the glass. It didn't break. It just pressed, and the glass began to rot like ice under fire. Joe held Mary Jane's hand, squeezing so tightly it hurt. Thomas grabbed James and whispered, "Don't look at it. Don't look." But James looked, and the smile, the last thing he saw. The world blinked. And suddenly Highway 13 was empty again. No car, no family, just the sound of the wind in the trees. The red moon overhead. Some say if you drive those back roads late at night, you'll pass a flickering gas station with a cracked window. If you look closely, you can still see the words carved into the deep glass. "Welcome back, Strowbush family." And if you keep driving, you might notice another set of headlights in your rearview mirror. But don't look too long, because whoever's behind you might be yourself. This has been a Green 19 podcast story about me and my family. Not a true story, but a good one. Thanks for watching. You guys have a great day.